Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Rooted Podcast. I tell you, I am sorry that this episode's a little late. Had some personal stuff going on, and but we're back and we're so excited to be here. We just had our first hunt of the season, 3-day velvet hunt here in Tennessee, and buddy, it was electric. It was action packed. We had a great time in camp. We ate good, and we're going to tell you all about it. We're going to unpack every single day, tell you all the stories of what happened, and I can't wait. So Ben here had a couple encounters, and let me tell you, he saw a bunch of good deer, and I'm sure he's ready to tell y'all exactly how all those hunts went down with him and Swaggy P up in the tree.
Yeah, but before we get into all that, I've got a Bible verse to throw at y'all's way. This is talking about worrying. This is
Oh, here
something
we go.
that I've struggled with a lot and still do. But worry is something that, I know that I need to give it to God. I know that I do not need to worry because He's got us. He always has and He always will. But somehow in my humanly brain, I still worry about everything. And this verse right here really points out why we should not worry. It is Matthew 6, and it's 26 through, let's see, 28. And it reads, "Look at the birds. They don't plant or harvest or store food in barns, for your heavenly Father feeds them. Aren't you far more valuable to Him than they? Can all your worries add a single moment to your life? And why worry about your clothing? Look at the lilies of the field and how they grow. They don't work or make their clothing. Yet, okay, that's where it really ends. Is they don't work, they don't make their clothing. You know, here's the thing I'm getting at. It clearly says right there, when you really think about this, in our fast paced society that we live in these days, it's all about what we're eating, where we're eating, what we're wearing, how much money we make, and what kind of house we live in, what are we driving, right? That's what we're worried about.
Hmm.
But when you look
Yeah.
at these birds, when you look at the deer, you look at all these creatures that God created, not one of them worries for food. Not one of them stores. They don't plant. They don't harvest like we do. They don't do any of that, and they are all fed. They have everything they need abundantly. The point is, give your worry to God. Don't be like me and sit there and stress about stuff and worry about stuff. That's one of my bigger downfalls is worry. And I really need to get stronger in my faith to where I'm not worried about anything anymore. I don't have to sit back and think, man, well, what if this goes bad here? What if it goes bad there? But the end of the day is, if it does, who cares? It's part of the process. It's part of the story that God is giving us as people to share with others, to reach others. It's all part of our individual story, and everybody's is different. Everybody is unique in their own right. So give your worries to God,
Hmm.
give them all to Him, and don't follow my steps because I worry a lot and I'm working on it. I'm really, really trying not to worry as much and trying to truly
Oh yeah.
live by that Matthew 6 26 through 27. That is what I'm trying my best to live by and walk by. And guys, look, at the end of the day, I don't care what anybody tells you. We're never going to be perfect. We're always going to fail. It's called sin. That's just what it is. We're sinners, and it is what it is.
Yep.
So, don't get so caught up in, well, I worried about this today. Okay, it's going to happen. Just move on. God's got you. Jesus died on the cross
Yeah.
for our sins, which is an atonement for our sins. So what that means is we're going to keep sinning, but He is the sacrificial lamb that took away all of our sins from now and forever until we are in the kingdom of God. So just remember, you're okay. It's going to be just fine. And God's got your back. Jesus
Yes.
has you, and we're going to slip and fall. We're going to worry. We're going to do other stuff. But the main thing out of all of this is just giving it all to God. All of it. Your worry, doubt, whatever it may be. Give it to God and let Him be the leader of your life. Let Him direct your path instead of always trying to direct your own. Because I'm bad about that too. And that's a whole nother topic for another day. Uh, about me trying to direct my own path. Because let me tell you something, John, I'm a type A. I like to just go and, don't ask no questions, just rip it and grip it. And a lot of times God's like, whoa, 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 big cat, you need to take a few steps back. You're missing the point here. This ain't your
Yeah.
path. This is my path. And mine is a whole lot better than yours. And you're not listening to me. And you need to stop and listen to me. I couldn't tell you how many times I have done that, man. I mean, dude, so many times in my life have I ran and ran and ran and tried to run my own party, my own life, and buddy, it just don't work. So, moral of that: give your
Yep.
worries to God, give it all to God, no matter what you're going through. He's got you, and He's already gone ahead of you. He's behind you and on both sides, and He will never fail you, ever. Never once will He fail you. He's always there. So, but yeah, I'm ready to talk about deer now.
And well, and it really goes all the way back to hunting because, you know, there's always the worries of life, like real
Mm,
life, There's always the worries of real life being whether it's rent, or making, paying the water bill, food, shelter, clothing, all those types of things. But whenever we're talking about, especially, the worries of a
mm-hmm,
deer or, am I going to be able to find land to
mm-hmm,
hunt or am I going to, be able to have the equipment to go hunting or it's like all that kind of stuff. All that's very minuscule in the grand scheme of things. And it's just like, especially all that, all the small stuff. I mean, God's gonna take care of
mm-hmm.
that. You ain't got to worry about any of that kind of stuff. It's just gonna work out when it needs to work out. And that's my biggest thing is I wanted it to work out
Mm-hmm,
yesterday, and I needed it, and I need it right now,
mm-hmm.
and it ain't happening right
Yeah.
now. And sometimes that stuff's a little rough to learn, but you just got to know that there's a plan and there's a reason, and you don't have to be in the know. You just have to be,
You just have to be with God, man.
and that's all there
And
is
dude,
to
I can
that.
tell you this, talking about finances and worrying about bills, dude, there's so many times in my life that my checking account has been on zero. More times in my life than I can count. And dude, God has provided a way every single time. Something crazy will happen, like I'll get some kind of deal or I'll get some kind of extra work on the side, that I wasn't even necessarily looking for. I was just praying, like, God, how am I going to do this? And then, boom, I get a phone call. Hey, would you want to help us in the afternoons or on the weekends do this, that, or another? And it always worked out to where everything I needed was covered every single time, man. And that is a
Hmm.
true testament to how God really is. And man, I could talk for 100 hours about all the different times in my life that God has shown up and showed out.
Oh yeah. Well, and we're gonna tell one of them right now because we had a phenomenal velvet deer camp. It was just incredible. Man, golly bum, we had so much fun, dude. We had just it's really a good time when you get a bunch of dudes together that are like minded and whenever you're chasing a deer, man, oh man, all the tips and tricks and everything. Everybody's an
Mm-hmm.
expert, and trying to kill a deer, and man, it's just such a good time, dude. Uh, so Ben, I kind of think we should tell the story from just go hunt by
Yeah.
hunt here. So first morning in the
Mm-hmm.
tree, what's kind of going through your mind? What are you expecting, and
The
what happens?
first thought that went through my mind is, I am an idiot. I'm going against everything that I've said. I should not be in this tree in the morning because I always preach afternoon, afternoon, afternoon. And I genuinely mean that. But there I find myself in a tree first thing in the morning. And the reason why is I had these deer patterned and they were in there every single morning. And they were very, very timely every day. It wasn't like, sporadically or they were in there from, 3 o'clock to 7:30. They were in there at 6:45 every day at the same place, at the same spot. It never wavered. So we were hunting over a soybean field, and then we had our mineral site there too. So, a lot of these deer were going back and forth from the feed to the mineral, and then there's a creek just adjacent to the stand, so they've got everything they need right there: food, mineral, water, all in the same spot. So, the first day, man, was pretty darn special. It started off, deer immediately. I mean, now I will say this, let me back up. We got in there super early. Like, we started walking at 4 o'clock. And it was a really short walk, maybe 10-minute walk. So we were in the stand by 4:15, settled. 4:15 to 4:30, settled. Tied in. Everything was golden, good. Cameras set up, all that stuff. Well, I thought the cameras were set up, and my tree arm gave way, and there goes Ryan's FX6. I'm watching it in slow motion. I'm like, no. Well, by that time, it had already bumped the platform of tree stand. I was like, oh, excellent. I just ruined this camera. And we just made a terribly loud noise. This is great. This is just how I wanted this hunt to go, and luckily the camera was fine. Everything was fine. And man, it wasn't long before the deer started piling out of the woods. I mean, from every direction. The wind was perfect. It was blowing our scent back to the creek. And I'd noticed on the camera that they were not coming from the creek. I'll take that back. There was one that was coming from the creek, but he only did it one time. Every other time they came from the woodhead on the right or directly in front of us and came across the field. So with the way the wind was, it worked very well for where they were entering and exiting the field. So I thought, okay, this is going to be good. Day starts breaking about 6:15, 6:20, something like that. Or no, excuse me, that was full daylight. 5:45 daylight is coming through. And around 6 o'clock, we see our first deer. And he just pops out like a little ghost that just popped out of the bushes. Just, what's up, boys? Except he had no idea we were there. And he was about 40 yards, little forkhorn, 4-point, real young, year-old deer. But man, it was like, okay, so we're okay. At least we're seeing deer here, right? It's a hit or miss on the velvet, man. You either have great weather, the deer move a lot, or you have trash weather and they don't move. It's a very hit or miss game, especially in Tennessee because you only have 3 days. So he comes out, does his thing, and then starts feeding off into the field. And we watch him for another 10 or 15 minutes. And it's about, I'd say, 6:20, 6:30, something like that. And I hear, and I just glance to my right, and there's a trail that comes off the mountain right there. There's 2 ridges that meet right there, and there's a waterfall at the end of that trail. Well, there's this deer's coming. I look over and I was like, oh, shooter buck. Immediately, I knew that he was that 6-year-old buck that I had been chasing for a while, and he has been a nocturnal beast of a deer to try to kill because all he does is nocturnal stuff. He only plays at night. And I thought, here is my chance right now. And he comes out into the field. Instead of doing like he normally does, which is goes around and then comes in, perfect shot, awesome. He walks straight to the mineral site before he goes to the field. Because I was thinking he was going to go to the soybeans first and then come back. But he did not. He went straight to the minerals and was facing me the whole entire time. The whole time. Mind you, the wind is blowing in our face from where he is. So he can't smell us. He can't see us. Because I specifically went and looked
Nice.
at from the mineral pile, I looked up at the tree stand to say, okay, what's my cover? What do I need to do? Just going through all the steps in my mind before the hunt when I was checking the cards and everything, leading up to this. And man, he was just chilling. I could have shot him, but it would not have been the best choice because he faced us the whole time. I had one little window where I could have slipped that arrow in right by the neck and shoulder. But, dude, you also risk wounding that deer and never finding him, and he dies a horrible death. And I thought, it's not worth that. It's not worth wounding him and letting him go. It's better just to let's let this play out a little bit and see what happens. The other deer is about 100 yards away from us at this point, and then there's another one coming. Like I glance over and see another one coming, another really young buck. So this old dude is just a bully running with really young bachelor group of deer because the big boys have pushed him out because he's being so rough. And I guess he gets to bully those young deer a lot. And oh, dude, that young deer stepped on a twig or something. I don't really know what happened, but I know he didn't smell us and I know he didn't see us. And all of a sudden, he just bolted right into the woods. I was like, well, what the heck happened? I was thinking, man, this is a slam dunk. We're about to hammer down. We're about to finally, after 5 years of velvet hunting, get a buck on the ground. But you know what? We're going to have to go for year 6 because it didn't happen. So he splits. That deer in the field's looking at him like, what is your problem, man? I don't see nothing. I don't smell nothing. Never budged. I mean, that deer just stayed out there eating. So I don't know what his problem was. I don't know what he saw. He could have seen something down at the creek or whatever that other deer didn't see. Because there are bobcats and coyotes, that go through that area. So I mean, it's a possibility, man. There's really no telling what he saw, or I know he didn't smell us, and I'm pretty dang sure he didn't see us because neither one of us were really moving. By the time he got to that mineral pile, I already had my bow in my hand and was ready. I was ready for him to make that step, turn broadside, and, give it all we had. But he didn't. And I thought, man, this hunt is over. Dang it. But then I got kind of excited because I thought, you know what? It's barely broke really good day. I mean, I can see the camera can film and all that, but I was like, dude, we still have like 3 hours to go. We're good. So about, I don't know, 30 minutes later, I'm just watching that little buck through the binoculars, just browse around in the soybeans. Because you know how I am, I get bored really easily. So he was just, browsing around doing his little tiny baby buck thing. And I see movement on the tree line. I was like, oh, what do we have here? Who's coming to visit us? And it was the bachelor group of the big boys, except for Split. Split was not there. So, folks, Split is a buck that I almost shot last year on the call list because his rack was super tight. His tines were almost touching. Just didn't look like he was going to do any better. And he was a 4-year-old deer, so I thought, man, if I see him, I'm going to go ahead and smash him, and get the meat, and because that's what I'm really after anyways, is the meat, because you can't eat the horns, man. You just can't do it. But I'll tell you this, that deer from age 4 to 5 exploded. Mass for days, got more tine length, got more beam length, and the reason I call him Split is because he's got a tear in his ear. And so that's why I've always called him Split, because he's always had that. And I've watched him for a while, and I just kept saying, give him another year, give him another year. And then last year I was like, okay, your time's up. But I'm glad I didn't kill him last year because he really turned out to be something special.
Yeah.
And oh man, it was exhilarating to see those bucks come out. They never came close enough to shoot. They stayed about 100 yards or more out, and we could see them with binoculars through the foliage because, when I'm bow hunting, man, I like to be tucked up in the foliage. I don't like to have, the ability to see for 500 yards. I want to be focused on my 20-yard shots, 20 to 40. That is 40 is my absolute max. If I'm going to do anything else, brother, I'm going to wait till gun season and bring out the old meat stick. And then we're going to hammer down with the old boom pow wagon. So, that being said, man, it was special. So they fed all the way across. We got to watch them for, 45 minutes. All the shooters that I had been looking at except for Split in that field, I've been watching them all summer long. I'm thinking, man, all I need is one of these deer to slip on over and come to this mineral pile, because the way they're facing, they're going to walk in broadside and it's going to be over. Well, they didn't do it. They walked to the woodhead and just went on in, which is great. I'm glad I know that now. So I know which way they're coming in and out. And that was pretty much my hunt first thing that morning, man. You were actually on your way down at this point, and getting ready to get there and get in the stand yourself, and cook probably the best deer meat meal I've ever had in my life. So why don't you tell us how you prepared that deer tenderloin for breakfast?
Yeah, so on that Friday I had to work, so after work, I got on down there, and then the next morning, you were hunting, and I was just sitting there thinking, like, man, I need to whip up something, and I brought some deer tenderloin from the house, and you had a bunch of eggs and bacon and sausage, and I was like, all right, well, I'll make the bacon and eggs and sausage, whatever, and then what I did with the tenderloin is, so I thawed it out, and I sliced it up, and I seasoned it, and then I got some flour. I seasoned that, and I dipped it in the flour, and then I just got a pan and put some butter in it and just fried it up in that butter. And then I just baked off the bacon, made the sausage in a pan, made scrambled eggs in a pan, whatever. And then, man, that deer tenderloin was probably one of the most tender tenderloins I've ever had. And part of that was because I took this thing called a Jacarder, which is just a tool that has a bunch of kind of little tiny knives in it, and it basically just cuts whatever meat, and it just kind of tears it apart. It makes it really tender. Man, I thought it was delicious, dude. I know it didn't really last long around that breakfast table that morning.
No, it did not, because I had probably over a quarter of it myself, because I tasted one and I was like, ooh wee, sign me up right now. Let me have it. I want it. I need it. I'm going to eat all of it. If nobody touches it, it's mine. But it was gone. I went back in there and it was all gone. I was like, man, no seconds on that? Come on.
Yeah, dude. And, I really didn't do too much. I just seasoned it. Little S&P goes a long way. And then some Slap Ya Mamba, maybe a little garlic powder, but nothing wild and crazy. That's for certain. But now I know we had some guests in camp. And these two boys, they got a little wild hair in them that same day. And I know you went out and you bush hogged some corn out of the cornfield there. And them boys just decided that they were going to set themselves up a lock on, and one of the boys hunted out of a saddle. And now you could probably tell this a little better, but why did they move from where they were to set this up, this other stand location?
The field they're sitting in, I call it the Field of Dreams, because it's wrapped in corn, and there's always different bucks traveling through there at any given time of the year. Anytime you go and sit there and hunt that stand or the shooting house, it's going to be something. You may not see the same buck twice, or you might see him for 5 days in a row. It's just one of those places that is super cool, because right in front of you, when you're sitting in that shooting house, there's two ridges that meet. One of them wraps all the way back around to the graveyard field, which is the next door field. You can see it from the shooting house. And then behind you, there's two more ridges that meet. And there's roads coming off all these ridges. So these deer have an easy travel access down to the bottom from behind you and in front of you. And they also like to come down. So if you're in the stand and you look to your left, there's a little bottom down there and it bottlenecks before it goes through to the next field. And dude, those bucks love coming from the left-hand side because there's an old logging road that runs up halfway up that mountain all the way down and then comes down in that field that's just across the creek. So I don't do nothing with that field. I potentially put a little tiny food plot in it this year, but I haven't made up my mind that that's actually what I want to do yet. It may just be a stand location to cut them off, in between their travel to and from. But those bucks will walk that old logging road and then come down that old field, cross the creek, and walk in the corn rows all the way up. And sometimes they go right by the shooting house. Sometimes they go around and go in front of the shooting house. So what had happened is, these deer were coming out a little too far. So, and they saw a pile of deer. I mean, a pile of deer. And, I'd wanted them to kill one. And I have some of our better bucks, actually some of the biggest bucks are in that field. I have gotten several shooters on camera in that exact field. So, I thought, man, this is going to be great. Put them in the shooting house. You have, the shooting windows. The only downside to the shooting house in August is it's blistering hot. And you don't get a breeze. It's just kind of miserable. But they moved because the deer were short stopping them. And they were eating the ears off the stalks. So, it's like, well, okay, that doesn't make sense. So they went in and decided to move down about, 40 yards to cut the distance, a little bit there from the shooting house. So it'd be more of a 20 to 50 yard shot instead of a 50 to 100 yard shot. So that's what we did there. And they moved down and dude saw the second biggest buck he's ever seen. And that deer hung up at 70 yards, dude. Hung up at 70 yards. And all he needed to do was walk 20 more yards. And they had bucks on them all afternoon. They showed me a video of this little 7-point that, man, he's a young deer. And I'm really happy they did not shoot that deer because you never know, man. They could be a 7-point this year and they could be a monster 8 or a monster 10 next year. You just never know because they're 2 and 3 year old deer. You never know until they hit that 4 and up. You have no idea, man.
Right.
Have no clue. So that's kind of how that went. And that's why they changed spots, which I think was great because the wind was perfect for them. It was just blowing right down that creek behind them. So and there's a spring back there. So, it comes out of the mountain as in a cave. It's actually a pretty cool cave back there, but don't get any ideas, people. No trespassing in our cave. That's ours.
But hey, listen here. Yeah. One of the kind of connecting dots to the story is, so whenever you went in there to cut that corn, how wide did you cut it?
It's only planted in 30-inch rows, and it's a very small strip that's planted around the field. So I just cut just enough. It's just real small.
Right. But we're talking like it was probably cut in 30-inch rows, right? So the story I was told from these boys was the deer, okay, this big buck that you're talking about was standing in the middle of this cut row and was just a few inches off on each side from touching each row. So
that's big buck number 2.
So
that's the other big daddy they saw.
So it's like, okay, there's this 20 some odd inch deer sitting right in front of them, and it's like, this is what they're trying to do. And that's why you pass these younger deer and let them grow. But so as awful as it is to have a deer be hung up like that, and you just got to sit there and stare at him, knowing that if you had a gun in your hand, that he'd be dead, which is also part of the fun of bow hunting. But that night, oh buddy, we had this deer tenderloin with a red wine gravy, mashed potatoes and corn. Dude, I'm not gonna lie, man. That was one of the better deer meals I've ever made in my life. So, and now look, there's gonna be videos on all this coming out real soon because we filmed it all. See there, but what I did was I took backstrap, sliced it real thin. Okay, you take a mallet or a jacquard, whatever you got. You could take a fork; it don't matter. And you tenderize it, kind of pound it out, make it thin and even. Okay, season it up. Steak seasoning, Cajun, salt, pepper, whatever you like, some seasoned salt, whatever. Do the same seasoning into your flour. So you season the meat, season the flour, put the meat in the flour, meat into the pan. Now, before all that happens, I sauteed an onion in this pan, took out the onions. Okay, then I put a bunch of butter in there, fried it up in some butter. Then I took the meat out, put the onions back in. So you got all that meat flavor in there, all the deer meat flavor, and butter and all that stuff. And then I deglazed it with some red wine, threw some garlic in there, thickened that bad boy up, put the meat back in it. And then, I made some mashed potatoes. I had some red bliss potatoes. I boiled them. Then I mixed cream and butter, put it in there, season that up, a little garlic, salt, whatever, however you want that.
Yeah.
Heated up some corn, and there you go. Then you just take out the meat. It's already covered in gravy. You could pour more gravy on if you want. We all did, because why not? And, buddy, it was absolutely killer. I think everybody ate their whole plate on that one there.
Oh, I know I did. I went back for seconds, and I ate so much that I felt immobile. I felt like I couldn't move, like the Michelin Man. Like, oh man, I need to just go lay down. I can't think straight right now because I'm so full. It was delicious, man. And dude, the thing is, you say that was probably your best dish, but dude, I've never had anything that you've cooked that was not superb. Everything has been perfect. Thanks. Every single time. So don't shortchange yourself there. It's always been good. It's always been perfect. There's never been a time where I'm like, man, this could have had a little bit more of pepper or salt or whatever. It's too done or whatever. It's always been perfect every single time. And, that says a lot about you as a person too, because you're the same way on pretty much everything. Very dedicated, work really hard. Folks, this dude is one of the hardest working dudes that I know. And he's the reason why this podcast is here, because he wouldn't leave me alone about it. So we finally ended up doing it. So,
persistence is key. You know what I mean? Your persistence is key. And I'll tell you what else, man. I don't think them boys we had in camp from the old HuntWise app. I don't think they quite knew the cooking that they were going to get, because there's some they're from Michigan, right? Or live in Michigan. I don't know if they're from there, but
I tried to tell them. I tried to tell them it's the best food you're ever gonna put in your mouth, and they believed me the second they took a bite of that. And dude, it was so nice to have them in camp. It was a really good atmosphere. They were really great dudes to be around, and man, it was just so much fun. And they saw so many deer, and got really close. But dude, the food was fantastic. You did an awesome job. And, that's what it's about, is all of us hanging out in camp. You know what? Something special about them too is they came into camp realizing that it's bow hunting and it's free range, and they had zero expectations. They were like, man, we're just coming to have fun. We're going to have a good time. We're not expecting to kill, both of us killed deer. They're like, dude, we're just trying to have fun. And that's what we did. We had fun. We saw a lot of deer, and we got really close to 2 tags being filled and saw a pile of turkeys.
Oh, yeah, same. Man, oh, my gosh. Because I hunted one morning. That's all I really had time to hunt,
Mhm.
and ended up not seeing a deer. But it was also, it was oddly cold for the August hunt in the morning,
Mhm.
especially that morning. It
Yeah.
was Sunday morning. I mean, dude, it was like
Mhm.
40 something or like low 50s at least. It
It's
was
cold.
high 40s, low 50s,
Yeah.
which I know isn't cold, but in August when you're used to sitting in 90 something degree heat during the hunt, it's a
With
big change.
115
I
index.
mean,
Yeah, it's a big change.
and look, it
Yeah.
was a big change for the deer too, but so really not all of an eventful hunt, had a bunch of squirrels and stuff, but anyway, whenever we were leaving, we saw a pile like 20 or 30 of them turkeys just hanging out. Pretty
Mhm.
crazy, really.
Yeah. Mhm. Man, we saw the same thing. Everybody saw a pile of turkeys. I wish you would have had more time, man, and didn't have to get back so early. But you know, hey,
That's
the
life.
bow opener is just a few weeks away, buddy. We're gonna be
Mm.
right back in the saddle together, running and gunning, my friend.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a great time, and maybe we
Yeah.
could cook another deer special. And I also made some Cajun ground deer like mac and cheese. It was basically just Cajun mac and
Hmm.
cheese. It was good, and what what I'm getting at is we can. I have the ability to remake all this stuff, so we just need to get you on down here,
Yeah.
and and,
Yeah.
and I need to go down there and again and just hang
Yep.
out and make it happen. And because I'll tell you, dude, it's
Hmm.
such a fun time. I love deer camp. I love being around everybody and just the vibe of what's going on.
Hmm.
It's so special, and you know
Yeah.
we got a lot of ideas over here at Camp Rooted. So I will tell
Hmm.
folks to kind of
Oh yeah.
stay tuned and listen. It's going to be everything from the big old mature buck to we might just go on a little bit of a killing spree this early bow season. You never quite know with us.
Hey, you never know, man. I heard there may be a new spot that needs some does taken out, and I'm not afraid to sling an arrow at a doe and put some fresh back straps on the griddle.
Not at all. Look, I'm all about shooting a big, nice deer. I'm all about it. I got one at the
Hmm.
taxidermist right now. It's
Yeah.
it's almost done. Can't wait. I
Hmm.
love it. But
Yep.
if a local
Hmm.
farmer calls me and says, "Hey, I have a deer problem and you're the solution," I'm not going to wait for the biggest deer. I'm going to be the solution to his problem. And we're going to swack
Yes.
and stack, as they say. And I cannot wait. Boy, I'm excited.
Yeah.
We're what 4 weeks away,
Hmm.
and it just can't get here soon enough. So actually, tomorrow I'm going to go out
Yeah.
and scout that property a little bit better. I've got one of the brand new Wise Eye cameras, the Mini 2. I'm excited to see how that works out.
Oh yeah.
And man, I'm gonna.
It's gonna be awesome,
Oh,
dude. You're gonna
dude,
love it.
I already love it. I didn't even use it yet, but I will have an
Yeah.
update on that on in a couple, probably 2 or 3 episodes from now. I'll probably have an update for that,
Hmm.
and an update on that property. So, things are happening. I'm really
Yeah.
excited, and I just can't wait to get going. And I can't wait to get back in the kitchen
Hmm.
too and make me some more deer meat. I'm kind of hungry now that I'm thinking about it. I'm gonna have to go in there and make me some.
Yeah, me too, dude. I'm sitting here thinking about that Cajun deer mac and cheese, and I'm thinking, man, wouldn't that be fantastic right now?
Yeah,
Like I could
right about
use some
now.
of that right now in
Hmm.
my life.
Well,
So you never know, dude. We may spend opening day together in East Tennessee, or we may come on down to Middle Tennessee. You never know. We'll see what happens. But we're always ready to go and
oh yeah,
sling an arrow, click that safety off a rifle, whatever it is, and then can't leave out them ducks. I'm a duck
oh
man.
yeah. Now,
I love them ducks.
oh, we are going to
Oh
shoot the
yeah,
ducks too.
sure
Don't you
enough.
worry about that.
Mm-hmm. Boom, boom, brah,
Mm,
limits
yeah,
for days.
exactly. So
Or I just miss.
yeah, that happens too. But you know
You'll
what?
have
That's
that.
okay.
Yeah,
So, man, I
it
just know we
is.
had a
Get out
phenomenal
there.
velvet hunt, and
Mm-hmm.
man, I just can't wait for real opening day, and I'm excited,
Yeah.
man. I'm excited. I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Me too, dude. Me too. Well, if you don't have anything else, brother, I think we touched this one pretty darn solid because now all I'm thinking about is tenderloin and
Mm.
Cajun mac and cheese.
Well, listen,
That's all I can think about right now.
if you're listening to this and you think, man, that sounds good, well, lucky for you, because we've got videos coming out. I'm going to teach you how to do it. All you got to do is watch and listen.
Mhm.
I'm going to show you how to do it, and it's
Yep.
going to be fantastic. And we got more videos like that coming down the pipe. Don't you worry. It's going to become a regular thing here. And other than that,
It
man,
is.
you know, all I've got to say is just check us out on all of our socials. Check us out wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Please give us a rating. Please leave a comment. All those sorts of things really help us out. You can also support this podcast by the link in the description. Click on that bad boy and donate whatever you feel necessary. And as always, happy hunting. See ya.
Hey, rednecks out.